Why did the Ark of the Covenant wind up in Kirjath Jearim? This is the question we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 1 Samuel on Walking Through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing 1 Samuel chapter 7, verses 1 to 6. But before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to 1 Samuel chapter 7, verse 1. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 1 Samuel chapter 7, beginning at verse 1. Then the men of Kirjath Jearim came and took the ark of the Lord and brought it into the house of Abinadab on the hill and consecrated Eleazar his son to keep the ark of the Lord. So it was that the ark remained in Kirjath Jearim a long time. It was there 20 years. And all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord. Then Samuel spoke to all the house of Israel, saying, If you return to the Lord with all your hearts, then put away the foreign gods and the Ashtoreths from among you, and prepare your hearts for the Lord, and serve him only, and he will deliver you from the hand of the Philistines. So the children of Israel put away the Baals and the Ashtoreths, and served the Lord only. And Samuel said, Gather all Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray to the Lord for you. So they gathered together at Mizpah, drew water, and poured it out before the Lord. And they fasted that day, and said there, We have sinned against the Lord. And Samuel judged the children of Israel at Mizpah. After being afflicted by God for bringing the Ark of the Covenant into their idol temple, the Philistines returned the Ark of the Covenant to Israel. It came first to Beth Shemesh, which was a border town between Israel and the land of the Philistines. The children of Israel rejoiced when they saw the ark returning and worshipped God for it, for the Philistines had possessed it for 7 months. Now the mistake that the people of Beth Shemesh made was that they looked into the ark, something that the law of Moses forbade, and so God killed about 70 men who did so. This event spooked the people of Beth Shemesh, just like the afflictions imposed by God spooked the Philistines. So they called for the people of Kirjath Jearim. Now, Kirjath Jearim was neither a city of refuge or a Levitical city according to the book of Joshua. It was a city located within the boundaries of the tribe of Judah. Why did they thus pick this city? Why not send it back to Shiloh? Why not send it to the high priest? Well, this chapter is going to imply heavily the Philistines occupied Shiloh, so that would rule that city out. As for the high priest, recall Eli is dead, as were his sons Hophni and Phinehas. Who became high priest? Well, from other passages we know that that was Ahitub, Phinehas' son. Other than his name, we know nothing more of this man. We do not know whether he was like his grandfather Eli or like his father Phinehas. We also don't know where he was, seeing as how the tabernacle doesn't seem to be in Shiloh anymore. In fact, later on in this book, we're going to find it in Nob. So perhaps it was inconvenient to send it to the high priest at that time. The likely reason they selected Kirjath Jearim is the proximity to Beth Shemesh, for if you look at a map, there is a road from Beth Shemesh to Kirjath Jearim, meaning that the travel would not be far. Thus, convenience is likely the reason for this selection. When the people of Kirjath Jearim came to collect the ark, they placed it in the house of Abinadab on the hill. Eleazar, Abinadab's son, was consecrated to keep the ark of the Lord. It is likely, though it cannot be definitively proven, that Abinadab was a Levite and thus of the priestly tribe to be able to perform this service. In reality, God can select whomever he chooses to perform his service, but by consecrating Eleazar, it can be reasonably assumed that a Levite was chosen. Consecration means that Eleazar was set apart for the service to the Lord, a necessary thing if one was to approach a holy God. This does not mean that Eleazar became high priest, for we never read of that, nor do we read of him doing anything other than keep the ark, but simply keeping the ark, which represented the Lord's presence, required consecration. Once the ark was there in the house of Abinadab, it remained there. In fact, it will remain there for almost 100 years until King David would bring it to Jerusalem in the book of 2 Samuel. However, even with the ark in Kirjath Jearim, that didn't mean the children of Israel returned to God. 20 years have passed since its return, and Israel is still being afflicted by the Philistines. This fits with our timeline from Judges 13 verse 1 that said that the Philistines afflicted Israel for 40 years and Shiloh was taken around the middle of this affliction. By the end of this 20 years, Samson would have already destroyed the temple in Gaza, killing himself in the process. This would have dealt a major blow to the Philistines, weakening them. But if you recall from Judges, Samson was a different type of judge. Samson didn't command armies in Israel. His strength largely led him to battle the Philistines on his own. Samuel was going to be the de facto leader of Israel during the judgeship of Samson. And so, because of him not being a leader in Israel, Samson's victory would lead to Israel's delivery from oppression. But that deliverance would ultimately be seen a couple years later when Samuel pressed Israel to leave their idolatry and serve the Lord only, saying that if they did this, then the oppression of the Philistines would be over. And to their credit, Israel listened to Samuel. Samuel gathered Israel together at Mizpah, which is in the tribe of Benjamin, not too far from Gibeon. Why Mizpah? Well, verse 6 says that Mizpah is where Samuel judged the people, another sign that Shiloh was not available to be used, for Shiloh was where Samuel lived when Eli was alive. There Israel drew water and poured it out before the Lord, which symbolized an act of sorrow, penitence, and repentance towards God, as we see symbolized in places like Lamentations chapter 2, verse 19. Israel fasted on that day and confessed that they had sinned before the Lord. The stage was set for the Lord's deliverance, something that we'll see, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 1 Samuel chapter 7, verses 7 to 17, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.